I'm not gonna lie, this is gonna be a little bit of a very, very difficult review for me. Because I'm actually torn. I don't know if I can be forgiving to this film, or there's some points that I was missing that other people don't miss. But I'll say that probably the movie that I just saw this week, The Crimes of Grindelwald, is probably one of my most conflicted films I have seen, at least on a personal level. But I can agree that there are some things that can disappoint, or some things that I want to forgive. And truth to be told, I don't know if the problem is just me. I don't know if the negative reviews are technically because of them, or... So, I don't know what to say. So as you can tell, I'm very conflicted. So let's go a little bit... let's organize a little bit where I'm standing with what do I think about the latest movie of the J.K. Rowling franchise film, Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. So let's get started. I started out with the Harry Potter franchise. Not very long ago. I knew about the popularity when it came out, but it took me a while to realize how popular that franchise is until the first movie came out. I do remember that I was in Ecuador, very naive, and then hearing a lot about the popularity of saying Harry Potter did, Harry Potter that, Harry Potter this, that. I was like, okay, what's the big deal? So I went to watch the first movie, and I was surprised that I absolutely love it. I really like it. So it was during that point that I finally decided to read the books. And I love it. It's also one of my favorite book series that I read. So much that I even have the audiobook that I found on Van Arts. And whenever each new book came out, I was excited. I do remember that I started reading when the fourth book came out. And boy, that was an experience. And when it ended, I felt that it ended well, and I did move on. Still, I'm kind of glad that they built a fan base out of it, and still there are some possibilities of creating more stories around this world, because I actually like. You might think that, yeah, I'm the kind of guy who always dismiss magic. Yes, I dismiss magic when it's spontaneous, but at least in Harry Potter they treat it like it has a set of rules. It has its ways. So this is why I accept it. I accept its magic. And my position to the films, it varies. There are some parts that I like from the movies. I can't deny that they're bad. Although I do have to admit that having multiple directions kind of harm a little bit of the believability of the story in continuity. And I highly suggest to read the books because they're more enriching than the films themselves. If you ask my opinion, I think that Chris Columbus, who directed the first two, was the better choice. The other movies were okay. I think that the fifth and the sixth and the third one were the weakest ones. It shows. The colors become a little bit more darker, more grim, and I get it. Because the book's tone grows as it goes on. I'm not gonna say that it becomes more adult, because that I think I'm realizing that this is a very typical excuse to show, okay, you must differentiate from kids from adult. I don't want to say more adult theme. It's more natural theme. You shouldn't. I think we should stop dividing the line between kids and adults. So where do I stand with the new set of movies that are coming out? The Fantastic Beasts series. Uh, I gotta admit that I know the faults of the first movie. I couldn't say that it was the best. I was sorely a little bit disappointed in one way or another, but I did like some elements about it that I couldn't say that I was angry or madly saying that, oh, it's lost its magic, it's lost everything about it. No, that's the typical thing that I'm seeing now on the latest movie. And it is time for me to tell you exactly why I think this movie it has a little bit of a conflict on me. So the movie takes place a few months after the events of the last movie, and it starts out with the Dark Wizard Grindelwald escaping with the help of this character named Credence, who he was supposed to be dead from the last movie, but somehow he just came back. Technically the movie then itself tries to put kind of like set up the story in which the Ministry of Magic are trying to capture this guy, but also we got our main character, Newt Scamander. They're trying to find this guy because this high wizard named Albus Dumbledore, for those who doesn't know, he orders him to try to get this guy, and he has the skills. He has the skills to do that, and I'll get to that why Dumbledore can do it. And yeah, this is a, how can I explain this movie? Because technically it's just wizards trying to find this guy, and this guy trying to recruit as many people as possible for his. Let's say that he has an agenda. He wants to technically at least show the world that it should be ruled by pureblood wizards, which is something that dark wizards think, that they are superior to everyone, and they just wanted to show it with power, fear, and all that stuff. I wish I could be a little bit more concrete on the plot, but I'm gonna say that this is probably one of the biggest problems that this movie has. It wants to have too much to go on, but it kind of misses the mark by saying that, okay, where do we want to go? Which character should we care? Where should, and it's kind of like trying too many ways to make a recipe, but it comes up in something very messy. That it might be delicious, but at the same time may be awful. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say that the movie considering what the first movie was, it did establish some of the character that we're gonna get into this trilogy. Five movies? Really? This is a little bit overambitious. Okay. Okay. Let's toss this problem aside. Sorry, I had to take a while to process that they're planning to make not a trilogy but a quintology. So, okay. Yeah, they established the characters in the last movie. Although I thought that it felt well enough for at least a standalone movie, despite that, let's say that the climatic battle was a little bit anticlimactic, and the Grindelwald thing was also anticlimactic. Even though I was open for the sequel, but I never expected that the sequel had too many stuff to handle, and it didn't handle very properly. Okay, let's go with a little, try to make a checklist of all the things that this movie wanted to put. First of all, we got the Dark Wizard Grindelwald, who wants to build an army, and he's using his charisma and his ideals to corrupt the people involved into it. And there is also Newt Scamander, who he got the task to find Grindelwald for Dumbledore, despite that he's been banned from traveling because the whole thing takes place in Paris. Well, almost the whole thing takes place in Paris. He also has to deal with I don't know if it was the love interest, but it was. But you know what? I kind of forgot the name of that woman. Could you give me a moment? Cut. Wait. Oh yeah, Tina Goldstein, and in which she became an Auror. For those who doesn't know, the Aurors are, let's say, like Dark Wizard hunters, and well, Newt is not exactly king of that positions. We also have what else there is. It also shoehorned in the subplot of Jacob and Queenie, which are two characters from the last movie, who they have this a little bit of a complicated romantic story in which they do love each other, but let's say that Queenie is kind of afraid that the law of the wizard world is gonna get let's say that it interferes with them. It's mostly because Jacob is essentially a muggle. For those who doesn't know, the muggle is technically what is called to people who doesn't have magic powers. But despite that, Jacob saying that he doesn't care, Queenie has her doubts. I'll say this, at least in the short term, that this is probably one of the most interesting parts of the movie, and probably the most that has a little bit of an emotional drive into it. But then we got another subplot that also involves oh my god, the names are escaping me. We got Credence finding his, I think he was his sister Nagini, who is supposed to be the pet snake of the main villain of the Harry Potter series, Voldemort, and he is on his quest to find out where he comes from, where's his family, but at the same time Grindelwald wants him, and then what else? Oh my god! We also have that small subplot that involves the relationship between Newt and his brother, who works at the Ministry. Oh, there's also Dumbledore warning warning the Ministry, like he always does, about the problems of their authoritarian regime. And then there is this character named Lita Lestrange, who was a student of Dumbledore, in which she also has connections with Credence, because she was kind of like her sister, kind of like half sister, quote unquote sister, but it wasn't, because there's this dude who he also was kind of in a little bit in a quarrel, who tries to this movie is a whole knot, and not a good one. Now I'm beginning to see why people have big problems with this movie. Whew. Okay, let's calm down a little bit. But from what you can tell, finding a little bit of an understanding of this movie, it feels like you are trying to entangle a big mess from many ball yarns. That's how hectic this thing is. And the thing is that it doesn't have to be that way. It just you just try to, you know, that it has some good things there, but with this plot and the way it shows and the way the cinematography works, I don't know if I want to love it or hate it, but I can see why most people becomes disappointed, because you know that it had good things. I mean, despite that it doesn't show too much, I love the creatures. And that's technically why we're here. We're here to see the world of fantastic creatures. See the creatures from Harry Potter, and Newt Scamander is a good vessel for that. And I wish that the movie could have followed a little bit of what the last movie did. I mean, the movie could have been a little bit like Dr. Jekyll and no, Dr. Jekyll, no. Sherlock Holmes and Watson chemistry that Newt Scamander and Jacob had. Because imagine that. It is a relationship between a wizard who loves animals and a muggle who he just kind of new into it, but still admiring this whole thing. Whew. Why couldn't the trilogy could be a little bit like that? But yeah, we had to add a little bit of the prequel stuff with Grindelwald, which is one big dark wizard before Lord Voldemort. Oh, and speaking of making a wink to the camera about the past, they also had to shoehorn in, for some reason, to Nicholas Flamel. For those who doesn't know, Nicholas Flamel, he is kind of like the MacGuffin of the first movie and the first book. He is the creator of the Sorcerer's Stone. And yeah, the Sorcerer's Stone makes a cameo on this movie. And I don't think that he partakes well into the movie just for a little bit of a glorified cameo. Cute, but not exactly. And for me, kind of like the biggest problem comes when they wanted to shoehorn in this subplot of Lita Lestrange. Because this is a character that she just shows up in this movie, but they wanted to put too much weight on that character without actually technically earn it. And man, that I can see that it could have been good but they just wanted to rush things a little bit into that. To make a little bit short and a little bit spoilerish, let's say that it is a woman who technically kill off the real baby wizard in this case. Let's say that it's because of childish grudge. Let's say that, and which she later regrets. But the way they did it is probably one of the most baffling things that this movie did. Although I do wanted to laugh at that moment. Let's say that it is the version that the way they told the backstory of Credence is it's like having this running joke. Yep, it's technically that version of that joke, the revelation of Credence. And another thing is that the way they show a lot of the stories, it has very little, some few action scenes, but they're not too spectacular. And sometimes the way they move, it's a little bit too jumbled that you kind of don't know where it goes. Sometimes it jumps from one scene to another to spontaneously just appear. So it does have suffer a little bit of continuity. And if you're confused by all of these plot points about this movie, I can see a little bit of the hypocrisy of people, because they're gonna complain about this movie, and still you idiots love this shitfest of a movie named Inception. They're saying that it's too confusing, but it's too great. No, Inception isn't that. It suffers the same thing as Inception. And I'm sorry, I am in the minority of people that I freaking hate Inception. And it has the same problems. It's boring. It can be boring. But funnily enough, I also begin to see why people love like Inception. Because if you're a little bit invested into this world, you're gonna get it. To be honest, I wasn't technically bored on this movie because I had enough knowledge about the Harry Potter world that I just felt a little bit mesmerized when magical things happen. Like the magical creatures. The magical creatures, let's say, that are the best part of the movie. Because I wanted to see more about these magical creatures. I like this cat Chinese dragon. Of course, the Niffler. And I wish we could see more about the Kelpies. Alright, I think it is time for me to say a little bit some positives that this movie has. Well, in the sense of being interesting and where the story goes, it's slightly a little bit better than the last one. Because things get emotion, and even though things get emotion but doesn't go anywhere, that's I'll say that it kept me interested enough compared to the other one. Although again, I don't legitimately hate the last one. I just thought that it felt a little bit less ambitious than the Harry Potter films. What else there is? I like the soundtrack. The acting is actually pretty good, I must admit. And this is no surprise. Eddie Redmayne and what was the name of the guy who plays Jacob? Excuse me a moment. Yeah, Dan Fogler. They do a good job, and they have a good chemistry as friends. And yeah, we also have Jude Law as young Albus Dumbledore, and he's good. I actually really like how late. For some reason, he's kind of like a gentleman in many ways. So I give it notch to his acting. And I gotta admit that for Grindelwald, Grindelwald is played by Johnny Depp. This is an actor who, despite having his low points of his career, like overusing characters like Jack Sparrow and something like that, I am a little bit of a forgiving mood. But this one, they finally show that he can do good acting and doesn't need to be his wannabe eccentric guy like this. Every time he tries to imitate the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland or Willy Wonka, I always notice that Johnny Depp, he's useless when it's about crazy characters, because I don't consider him crazy. I consider him eccentric, and there's a fine difference between these two. But her portrayal as Grindelwald is a little bit out of his comfort zone, but for some reason it shows that he can do better than that. I mean, the scene in the climatic moment where he's surrounded by all those wizards who will listen to him, he does a great speech, and he does it really good. And, well, I don't know why people are always comparing, what was the name of that actor again? The one who played Credence. Yes, here it is. Ezra Miller. Why people always compare, saying that, yeah, this guy he's not acting as well as he did as the Flash. People are always saying that he's the Flash. No. I don't want him to be known as the Flash. Is he plays on shitty movies like Justice League? No, I rather him to be known or known in other things. But he's not the Flash. I mean, I saw the TV series of the Flash. The guy who plays the Flash on that Netflix series is way better than the one from Justice League. That's my nitpick. Yeah, he's kind of like sulking in many ways. You know what? I don't have much to say about this guy. Alright, let me finish this. But I'm kind of apologizing how messy this vlog is being. I'm just technically confused about this movie. I feel conflicted. In a way, I kind of enjoy it, but at the same time, I can understand why it was a disappointment. So, my stance on this is neutral. So, and many people saying that at this point, the franchise has lost its magic. But here's the thing. It lost some of the magic. But the magic is still there. It can be recovered. And honestly, I think that the magic kind of lost ever since the fifth movie, because the fifth movie became a little bit too serious sometimes. And while I like a lot of when things get too serious, I don't like when they sacrifice too much from the childhood things. I mean, you can make something that looks like a Chris Columbus film and still keep on with the more mature or the more high risk things, keeping on that tone. I mean, I saw animes that keep that. Yeah, they go to a little bit on serious parts. They don't go a little bit too far, but you can tell that they're not afraid to go there. Here's a little bit of an example. This week, I saw a little bit of this very, very cute anime called, I don't know what's the long name, but it's called like Tetsunoshin. It's a very cute anime about puppies, and it started out that way. But as the series then progressed to its final phases, it becomes darker. Even it ends up with one of the main characters dying. It didn't go too, bloody or something like that. But still, it kind of proves that you can be darker and still maintaining some of the charisma and that it went like that. You don't need to sacrifice, cuteness or whimsy in order to show that there is a darker world. You are appeasing both things. But if you go into both extremes, then you come up as a very manufactured product. But I'll say this. At least in the Harry Potter universe, it doesn't go to neither extremes. It's just a little bit odd in a way. Then, don't get me wrong, I love the Harry Potter films. I think that I want to be a little bit too forgiving on the Crimes of Grindelwald more than many people do. But you know what? Sometimes when you love something, you have to be a little bit too harsh on them. So I'm sorry to say this, but I like where you're going, but and I'm sorry that it comes up a little bit disappointing on your narrative. You have to work a little bit harder on that, and and touching this bit of magic that is left is gonna be harder. It's not impossible, but it's still there. I can tell that it's still there. My recommendation: make it have more animals. This will, because for a series that is called Fantastic Beast, that's what you're promising. You're promising more Fantastic Beast. Let's learn about these creatures. And I don't know why they treat Credence when he looks more human than a fantastic creature. If he could be more like, you know, let's say, you know what? That's kind of makes me think that I almost forgot that there was also this plot point, another plot point between the friendship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, in which they had some kind of blood oath in which this prevents Dumbledore to kill this guy. Oh man, do you see? Do you see how many things they're injecting on this thing? But no. This is gonna take too long. So you know what? I think it is a good time for me to end this review. So finite.